If you want to build muscle after 40, you need to know these 8 things. Most men reach 40 and feel that everything that worked before stops working. Even when training hard and eating well, muscles simply don't show up like they used to. What happens is that your body has really changed. Testosterone is no longer as high, and muscles don't respond to protein and training the same way. However, there's no shortage of cases of men who do continue gaining muscle mass even after 40. And if they can do it, there must be a way, right? Additionally, there are also many studies showing that you can develop as much muscle at 40 as at 20. What you need is to understand exactly why muscle growth seems more difficult with age, and what specific changes to make to see real results again. That's why today you'll see 8 things that need to be done to continue gaining muscle mass after 40. After all, there's no point in doing the same workout you did at 20 and expecting it to give results. Before we start, tell me in the comments your name and how long you've been training. Tip number 1. Combat anabolic resistance. As we age, our body goes through several changes that directly affect our ability to build muscle. One of the most significant is the development of so-called anabolic resistance. Basically, our muscles become less responsive to the stimuli that previously triggered muscle growth. This resistance doesn't mean you can no longer grow, just that you need to work smarter. What many people don't know is that after 40, muscles require more training volume to achieve the same level of growth they easily achieved at 20. A study published in 2012 demonstrated something fascinating. Older men had a 110% increase in muscle protein synthesis when doubling the number of sets in their workouts, compared to only a 50% increase in younger men with the same adjustment. This suggests that the mature male body can actually respond extraordinarily well to adequate volume. To properly execute this strategy, you need to gradually increase your total training volume, but not all at once. Add an extra set to each main exercise for a few weeks, observe how your body responds, and then consider adding another if necessary. A common mistake is thinking that more is always better, and trying to compensate for anabolic resistance with excessively long workouts. The secret is to increase volume strategically, not randomly. Focus on compound exercises that recruit more muscle mass: squats, deadlifts, bench press, and rows. Remember that your goal should be to increase total weekly volume, not necessarily make longer workouts. Dividing this volume into more weekly sessions can be a more effective and less taxing strategy for your recovery system, which is also no longer the same as at 20. Tip number 2. Increase rest periods between sets. One of the biggest mistakes I see men over 40 make is maintaining the same short rest intervals they used when they were younger. Science has clearly shown that this could be sabotaging your results. Recent studies demonstrate that resting for longer periods between sets, specifically 3 to 5 minutes, results in significantly more muscle growth than short rests of just 1 minute. This contradicts what many of us learned early in our fitness life. The beauty of this adjustment is in its ability to allow more complete recovery between sets. When you rest adequately, you can maintain intensity and weight in subsequent sets, which means greater stimulus for muscle hypertrophy. To implement it correctly, start by adjusting your rest intervals to 3 minutes for main compound exercises like squats, bench press, and deadlifts. For isolation exercises like bicep curls or tricep extensions, 2 to 3 minutes are usually sufficient. What makes this adjustment particularly valuable for men over 40 is that it naturally compensates for the slower recovery between efforts that occurs with age. Your body simply needs more time to replenish phosphocreatine stores in the muscles, the primary fuel for high-intensity efforts. A mistake I frequently see is thinking that resting more means wasting time in the workout. In fact, you're investing time to maximize results. There's no point in doing suboptimal sets just to keep the workout intense or quick. Remember that the goal of each set should be to generate the maximum possible stimulus. With inadequate rest, you simply won't be able to lift appropriate loads to induce significant muscle growth. Tip number 3. Monitor and optimize testosterone naturally. From age 30, testosterone levels naturally drop about 1% per year. It may not seem like much, but when you reach 40, this can mean a reduction of 10 to 15%, enough to significantly impact your muscle gains, since testosterone is fundamental for muscle protein synthesis. The first step in dealing with this reality is knowing your numbers. Get blood tests to check your current testosterone levels. The range considered normal is from 300 to 1,000 nanograms per deciliter. However, What many people don't know is that even while being within the normal range, you may be well below your personal ideal level, especially if you're near the lower limit. To optimize your testosterone naturally, there are several scientifically proven strategies. First, prioritize good fats in your diet. Avocado, extra virgin olive oil, egg yolk, and fatty fish are excellent sources. Studies show that diets with less than 20% fats can reduce testosterone levels. Quality sleep is perhaps the most underestimated factor for hormone production. Research from the University of Chicago demonstrated that men who slept only 5 hours per night for a week showed a 15% drop in testosterone levels, almost equivalent to 10 to 15 years of natural aging. You'll know you're doing it right when you notice improvements in energy, libido, strength, and muscle recovery. Testosterone affects several aspects of your life, not just muscle gains. A common mistake is seeking quick fixes, like miracle supplements promising to dramatically increase testosterone. The reality is that the fundamental factors, sleep, nutrition, stress management, and proper training, are responsible for approximately 80% of your potential to optimize hormones naturally. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Having constant access to science-based information is what will make you progress with health in the long term in the world of bodybuilding. Tip number 4, proper supplementation. When we talk about supplementation for men over 40 seeking hypertrophy, we need to focus on options that are really scientifically proven. There are 3 main supplements that deserve your attention. Creatine is the most studied and proven supplement in the fitness market. The recommendation is to consume 3 to 5 grams daily, every day, regardless of whether you train or not. What it does is increase phosphocreatine stores in the muscles, allowing more energy for intense muscle contractions, which translates to more strength, more repetitions, and consequently, greater stimulus for muscle growth. Studies show average gains of 5 to 15% in strength and 2 to 5 pounds of lean mass with consistent use. Vitamin D is often neglected, but it's crucial especially after 40. About 60% of men in this age group have significant deficiency. The standard recommendation is 5,000 IU daily, but ideally you should test your levels and adjust the dosage. Vitamin D acts as a hormone in the body and is directly related to testosterone production and bone health. Additionally, recent research shows its importance for muscle recovery and immune function. Magnesium, at a dosage of 200 to 400 milligrams daily, has demonstrated efficacy in reducing cortisol levels and improving sleep quality, 2 crucial factors for those seeking hypertrophy after 40. It also aids in neuromuscular function and absorption of other important nutrients. As for whey protein, often considered essential, it can actually be discarded if you already consume an adequate amount of protein through your diet. Whey is just a facilitator, a convenient way to reach your daily protein goals, not a magic supplement for muscle gain. To properly implement these supplements, start with creatine daily, regardless of training days. Vitamin D is better absorbed when consumed with meals containing fats. Magnesium, due to its relaxing effects, is generally more beneficial when consumed at night. A common mistake is believing that supplements can compensate for poor nutrition or inadequate workouts. Remember, supplements are additions to a solid foundation, not substitutes for well-done basic work. Tip number 5, train each muscle group twice a week. Studies consistently show that splitting the same training volume into higher frequencies can almost double muscle growth. This occurs because muscle protein synthesis, the process that builds new muscle tissue, remains elevated for approximately 24 to 36 hours after training. After that, it returns to baseline. If you train each muscle group only once a week, you're essentially wasting 5 to 6 days where you could be building more muscle. For men over 40, this strategy is even more valuable due to the aforementioned anabolic resistance. What makes this approach particularly effective is that it allows for higher quality repetitions. When you divide the weekly volume into 2 sessions, you won't be excessively fatigued in the last exercises and sets of the workout. A rested body executes movements with better technique and greater intensity. Additionally, training each muscle group twice a week allows you to better exploit the so-called anabolic window, the period after training where your body is more receptive to muscle building. You'll essentially be doubling your weekly growth opportunities. To implement this strategy, consider an ABC split, training 6 days a week or a full-body workout 3 times a week. The exact format depends on your availability and preference, but the principle remains the same. Each muscle group needs to be stimulated at least twice a week. A common mistake is thinking that more frequency necessarily means more total volume. In fact, we're just redistributing the same weekly volume. If before you did 12 sets for chest in a single day, now you would do 6 sets on 2 different days of the week. Remember that recovery continues to be fundamental. Listen to your body and adjust as necessary. Although science points to clear benefits of higher frequency, implementation should be personalized to your individual recovery capabilities. Tip number 6. Include mobility training. Joint stiffness naturally increases with age, and after 40, this can become a significant limiter, not only for your performance, but also for your muscle gains. What many people don't realize is that reduced range of motion means diminished hypertrophic stimulus. When you can't execute a movement in its full range, you're essentially leaving gains on the table. For example, a partial squat stimulates significantly less muscle growth than a well-executed deep squat. To combat this progressive rigidity, incorporating end-range isometrics is an extremely effective strategy. These are essentially active stretches under load, which not only improve your mobility, but also strengthen the muscles in their most vulnerable positions. The beauty of this type of training is in its ability to produce relatively quick results. In just 2 to 3 weeks of consistent work, many practitioners notice significant improvements in range of motion and, consequently, in the quality of their main workouts. To execute it correctly, set aside 10 to 15 minutes before each training session for specific mobility work, focusing on the joints that will be most demanded that day. For example, before training legs, prioritize hip and ankle mobility. A particularly effective exercise is the end-range isometric squat. Descend to the lowest possible position of a squat and hold for 30 to 60 seconds. This not only improves your mobility but also strengthens the muscles exactly in the position where they are usually weakest. A common mistake is treating mobility as something separate from strength training. In fact, they are complementary and synergistic. Greater mobility allows greater range of motion, which in turn allows greater muscle activation and consequently, greater hypertrophy. Remember that this work should be progressive, just like your strength training. Start with comfortable positions and gradually advance to more challenging ranges as your mobility improves. Tip number 7. Increase protein intake. After 40, the body develops what scientists call anabolic resistance, a reduction in the efficiency with which it processes and uses proteins for muscle building. This is one of the main reasons why many men struggle to maintain or increase muscle mass at this stage of life. Research shows that while at 20, approximately 20 grams of protein per meal was enough to maximize muscle protein synthesis, after 40, it may take almost double this amount. Studies indicate that the ideal target should be between 30 to 40 grams of protein per meal to optimize muscle building. What makes this adjustment particularly important is that it directly compensates for one of the main physiological changes that occur with aging. You're essentially overcoming anabolic resistance with a larger protein stimulus. To implement this strategy correctly, distribute your protein intake across 4 to 5 meals throughout the day, each containing 30 to 40 grams of high-quality protein. Sources such as lean meats, eggs, dairy products, and protein supplements are excellent options. A common mistake is focusing only on post-workout protein and neglecting the other meals of the day. To optimize muscle building, each meal should contain enough protein to overcome the anabolic threshold. You'll know you're consuming enough protein when you start to notice better recovery between workouts and maintenance or progressive strength gains. If these markers are stagnant, consider gradually increasing your protein intake. Remember that this increase in protein should be accompanied by adequate hydration. Higher protein levels require more water for proper processing and elimination of metabolic byproducts. Tip number 8. Train with a high degree of effort. One of the biggest obstacles to muscle growth after 40 is training with insufficient intensity. Studies consistently show that people generally underestimate by up to 30% how many repetitions they could still do, which means many are stopping their sets far from the stimulus needed to trigger significant muscle growth. What many people don't understand is that, as you age, you need to compensate for the natural decrease in anabolic hormones with greater effort in training. You simply can no longer get away with low-intensity workouts as you perhaps could at 20. To be clear, this doesn't mean going to muscle failure in all sets of all exercises. That would be counterproductive and would excessively increase recovery time. Instead, it means not abandoning a set just because it started to get uncomfortable. or because you reached a pre-established number of repetitions. The beauty of this approach is in its ability to generate a maximum hypertrophic stimulus without necessarily increasing the total volume of training. You're essentially extracting more growth from each set you perform. To implement this strategy correctly, consider using techniques like RPE, where you assess how close to failure you are on a scale of 1 to 10. For most compound exercises, aim for an RPE of 8 to 9, meaning you could do only 1 to 2 more repetitions with proper technique. A common mistake is confusing effort with exhaustion. Training with a high degree of effort doesn't mean leaving the gym completely drained every day. It means applying appropriate intensity to individual sets, while managing the total fatigue of the workout. If you like this and also want to discover a complete chest workout to see real results in this muscle so important for male aesthetics, we've left a video appearing right now on the screen showing better which exercises make up this workout. Don't miss it. Thank you for watching this far, and may God bless you, my friend.